Shalom Na'ala viewers. This year is dedicated to the memory of Rachalea Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. We continue our series on the Haggada. Today I would like to go through the Maggid section of the Haggada, the bulk of the Haggada, where we say the story of our redemption and before that our slavery in Egypt. My plan is for us to go actually through every single paragraph in the Haggada, explain its function, why is it there, and how it's connected to the previous paragraph. Now there's thousands, literally, of commentaries on the Haggada. I chose one of the very many out there for this class, a Pashtan, someone who really just explains the pshat, the simple, most basic understandings of these paragraphs and of these sections. His name is Ra'avan. So, let us begin. Now, Maggid starts with the paragraph, Halach Ma'anya. This is the bread of affliction, Diachalu Avasana Ba'ara de Mitzrayim, that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. Why do we begin with this section? So Ra'avan explains that this was not part of the original Haggada. This was not part of what the Jews said before they were exiled out of the land of Israel and into Babylonia. And this is actually proven by both the language of this paragraph and the contents. Because of the entire Haggada, this is the only part that's written in Aramaic. The language of exile, the language that the Jews spoke when they were already exiled into Babylonia. Because in the land of Israel, the Jews mainly spoke Hebrew. So that's one piece of evidence that this was written after the Jews were already exiled. And the second one, like I said, is the actual content of this section. In this paragraph we say, Hashata hacha, this year we are here, L'shana haba ba'ar de Yisrael, next year in the land of Israel. Hashata avde, this year we are slaves, L'shana haba b'nei chorin, next year may we be free men. So from here we see that the Jews are already exiled out of the land of Israel. But why do we begin the Maggid section with this paragraph? And Ra'avan explains that the Seder night, first of all, is a night of questions. The format of the Seder, as we will see as we continue with the Manishtanah, with the 4 questions, are question-answer format. That's how we tell over the story of our subjugation and of our redemption. And it's very important that everyone at the table understands what's happening. They have to understand that tonight is the day we were redeemed. They have to understand what took place on this night, our slavery, our redemption. Everyone at the table has to understand what's going on. Which means you should speak in the language that people understand. If people speak Aramaic, you speak in Aramaic. That's how you introduce the Seder. That's how you make sure that everyone understands what's going on. So let's say, for example, in my family, when we go through the Haggada, when we say Maggid, every section is said both in Hebrew and in English to ensure that everyone understands what's being said. So here too, we begin with the paragraph in the language of the people, at that time at least, to ensure that everyone understands what's going on. Once we tell them in Aramaic, this is the poor man's bread, and we lift up the matzah, as we're supposed to do when we say this paragraph, that would lead the children to ask, well, why do we have that bread here tonight? Why do we have matzah? Why don't we have regular bread? Which, of course, is one of the 4 questions that we're going to be leading up to. And this can lead us into our discussion that's supposed to take place at the Seder night. Continuing. The next section, as we said, are the 4 questions that the first paragraph, Halach Ma'anya, this is the poor man's bread, or this is the bed of affliction, was supposed to lead us into. Now the Mishnah tells us we're supposed to say these 4 questions. The Mishnah in Pesachim, in chapter 10, there's one difference. The Mishnah also lists 4 questions, but it has one different one than here. One of the questions the Mishnah asks is, why do we normally eat roasted and cooked? And tonight we only eat roasted because the Korban Pesach, the Pesach offering, was roasted. And they leave out the question about leaning. We obviously don't ask the question about roasted because we're not eating roasted food. We're not eating the Pesach offering, the Korban Pesach that's roasted. So we leave out a question that's relevant only to the time of the temple, and we bring in a question that's relevant to us today, which is, why do we lean today? In any event, we have the 4 questions here. Again, 4 questions talking about the Pesach night. 4 questions the child is supposed to ask his father. And again, if the child cannot ask, then the wife asks. And if there's no wife, then the Baal Habayit, the one who's leading the Seder, is supposed to ask himself. The Mishnah tells us that if a child cannot ask, the father must initiate and actually teach his child how to ask. Teach his child the story, the questions and answers related to our suffering, our subjugation, and our redemption from Egypt. And all these questions are related to the night, related to what happened on this day. Whether it's why are we only eating matzah, or why do we eat maror, the bitter herb, or why do we dip into special dips, and why do we lean on this night? These are the things that make this night different. There's other things that are different, but these are actions that we're doing. They make the child think, why is this so? And again, even if a child is not there, we still must ask these questions.